What makes something alive? This seems like an easy question, because something biotic is completely different to something abiotic. Living things grow, develop, move, eat, regulate themselves, react to their environment, and are subject to evolution, all in an effort to prevent death by creating new entities. So this means that they are completely different to abiotic things, right? Where is the line that separates living things from that is not living?
Edward Schrödinger defines life as that which resists decaying to disorder and equilibrium. This relates to the second law of thermodynamics, which states that in any cyclic process or closed system, the entropy or disorder of that system will either stay the same or increase over time. Basically, in any repeating system that does not exchange matter with its surroundings, the disorder of that system will either remain the same or increase over time. So, by investing energy in life, entropy can be minimized. Imagine that your garbage bin is the universe. It starts off disorderly and chaotic until you invest energy in life to clean things up a bit. So that's what life is, right? As with all of the answers to the question of life, there are loopholes. If Schrödinger's definition of life was accepted, that would mean crystals were alive, as they take in energy and reduce entropy when they form elaborate lattices of particles. Even though they cannot reproduce, are not subject to evolution, and are not made up of cells, which are deemed the building blocks of life. However, we don't even know yet if cells count as life. If they don't, doesn't that suggest we aren't alive? After all, we are all made up of cells. If we look at cells, we can see that they are certainly not made of anything that is alive.
Cells are, at the most basic level, comprised of proteins. Cells function in living things as a result of chemical reactions that form the cell's metabolism, and so that the cell can perform all of its necessary functions. If we look at the proteins that make up a cell, none of them are alive. From a chemistry point of view, cells are made of proteins which are made of amino acids which have a common core structure. This comprises of hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, and carbon, and is attached to a variable R group. No part of a protein, cell, or organism is alive. Amino acids string together to form chains. If two amino acids bond together, they are called a dipeptide. 3 amino acids form a tripeptide. If a chain of 10 or more amino acids is formed, then it is called a polypeptide. Proteins are formed when a chain of 50 or more amino acids is formed. These proteins make up cells, which make up tissues, which make up organs, then organ systems, which make up the human body. One thing is for sure, there is no magical force that governs living things. So does this mean we're not alive?
If this is common among all organisms we know of, does this mean that everything in the universe is dead or alive? In short, we really don't know. And if you thought the line was blurred enough, artificial intelligence and viruses come into the picture to distort the line even more. This all got confusing really quickly, and we really don't have any answers to what counts as life. As technology progresses, yet another question comes into the equation. When have we created artificial intelligence in computers, and does it count as life? By our most common definitions, we are pretty close to creating artificial intelligence or life in computers. But are we really? If we program computers to feel emotions, replicate themselves, evolve, move, react to their environment, do everything that we assign to life, does this mean that they are alive, or does life have to be a natural process formed by abiotic things? If computers aren't made up of cells, does that mean they are not alive? Let's move on to viruses.
Viruses are in the grey zone between living and non-living organisms. Unlike bacteria that reproduce, excrete, and digest, viruses are little more than strands of DNA or closely related RNA covered in a protein coating. This is where cells come into play. Cells are the building blocks of life and have all the machinery for duplicating genetic material. The virus enters the cell and essentially takes over its functions. When this happens, we call the cell a host cell. The virus can use the cell's reproductive system to reproduce itself. This reproductive process comes at the cost of the host cell. When the host cell breaks apart, the virus is released and spreads to the other cells. If viruses can do all of this, does that mean that they can be counted as alive? If they are counted as alive, does this mean that DNA is alive? To make things more complicated, it is not uncommon for viruses to infect a dead cell, reanimating it, allowing the cell to become a host. So because it seemingly brings back to life a dead cell, are viruses alive?
One thing is for sure, the line that separates the living and non-living seems to be almost non-evident. With theories supporting different views of life, it is hard to create a common definition. Are crystals alive? Can we create artificial intelligence? Are viruses alive? Are we alive? Are these even relevant questions? What do you believe?